In the dim light of a raging storm, Mira stood alone on the jagged cliffs, her salt-stiffened cloak whipping wildly in the wind, as if the sea itself was trying to pull her back into its embrace. She had sworn never to interfere with the ocean's fury, a pact forged in blood and loss. But something about the figure bobbing in the waves called to her, a silent scream that echoed her own buried pain. Was this a test from the depths, or a cruel twist of fate? Her heart pounded, torn between the safety of isolation and an inexplicable urge to save, knowing that one wrong move could shatter the fragile peace she'd built. As the rain lashed her face, Mira's fingers dug into the wet sand, her magic humming beneath her skin like a dormant storm. She was no hero, just a witch haunted by memories of a family claimed by the sea. Yet here was a man, half drowned and marked by shadows, washing up like a message in a bottle. With a deep breath, she extended her hand, salt crystals forming instinctively to shield him from the cold. But why him? The question lingered unanswered, as she dragged him to safety, her mind racing with the weight of what she was risking. Elias, as she'd later learn, wasn't just any sailor. He carried a curse that mirrored her own scars, binding them in ways she couldn't yet fathom. Elias's eyes fluttered open, locking onto hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine, whispering a single word that sounded like a prophecy. Don't. It was a plea, a warning, or perhaps both, leaving Mira frozen in place, her breath caught in her throat. What did he know that she didn't? The air thickened with unspoken tension, the storm outside fading into an eerie calm, as she realized this stranger might drag her back into the very dangers she'd fled. But just as Mira began to question her impulsive act, a flicker of something human broke through. Elias's hand twitched, gripping her wrist with surprising strength, his voice hoarse as he muttered, "You shouldn't have saved me." It was a raw admission, laced with guilt and mystery, reminding her of the old saying, "No good deed goes unpunished." Yet, in that touch, she felt a spark of connection, a shared vulnerability that hinted at deeper currents. Was this the start of redemption, or a path to destruction? Back in the dimly lit confines of Mira's weathered cottage, the storm's fury had settled into a dripping silence, but the air still hummed with unspoken questions, each shadow in the room seeming to whisper secrets of its own. Mira moved with careful precision, her hands coated in a mixture of salt and herbs as she tended to Elias's wounds, the faint glow of her magic revealing more than she intended, scars that told stories of battles fought and lost. Why had she risked everything for this stranger? The thought gnawed at her, a persistent question that pulled at her curiosity, making her wonder if this act of kindness was the key to unlocking her own chained heart, or just another link in a chain of regret. Elias lay there, his breathing ragged, the curse's dark tendrils faintly visible under his skin like ink spreading in water, a reminder that he wasn't just a victim, but a vessel for something ancient and vengeful. Internally, Mira wrestled with a mix of fear and fascination, her mind drifting to the pact she'd broken, a vow that had kept her safe but isolated for years. As she applied a poultice, their eyes met, and in that shared glance something important surfaced. Elias's curse wasn't just physical, it fed on loneliness, much like her own life had. "You're not the only one who's lost everything," he murmured, his voice rough, injecting a sudden emotional depth that made Mira pause, her heart skipping a beat. The tension built as Elias shifted, wincing in pain, and Mira caught a glimpse of something more, a tattoo on his arm, an old naval symbol twisted by the curse's magic, hinting at a past he wasn't ready to share. She felt a surge of empathy, remembering her own family's tragic end, but just as she opened her mouth to ask, he cut her off with a wry smile, saying, "Fate's got a funny way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it?" The American idiom slipped in naturally, lightening the mood just enough to ease the weight, yet it left her with a burning question. What curveball had the sea thrown at him to land him here, and how was it now entangled with her story? As the night wore on, Mira stepped back, wiping, her hands on her apron, the silence between them thick and charged, like the calm before a tidal wave. Emotionally, she was teetering on the edge, her magic responding to his presence in ways she couldn't control, sparking a warmth that scared her. Elias, sensing her withdrawal, reached out weakly, his fingers brushing hers in a moment of unexpected connection, creating a moment of vulnerability that hung in the air. What if saving him meant losing herself? As the first light of dawn crept through the cracks in the cottage walls, Mira couldn't shake the unease that had settled in her bones like sea fog, wondering if her act of mercy had awakened something far more dangerous than she bargained for. Elias's curse lingered in the air, a subtle hum that made the shadows dance, and she found herself drawn to him not just out of duty, but a gnawing curiosity that threatened to unravel her carefully guarded life. What if the visions she'd seen weren't just nightmares but echoes of a shared destiny? Her mind raced, planting seeds of doubt that made every creak of the floorboards feel like a warning. Mira sat by the hearth, her fingers tracing the salt lines she'd drawn for protection, the warmth contrasting the chill of Elias's skin as he rested nearby. Internally, she battled a mix of guilt and intrigue, her magic pulsing in response to his labored breaths, a sign that the curse was feeding off her energy. Elias stirred and revealed a fragment of his past. He'd been cursed by a vengeful sea spirit after a fateful mutiny, a secret that tied his fate to the ocean's whims. "It's like carrying a storm in your chest," he said, his voice low and haunted, leaving Mira breathless, her own losses mirroring his pain. The revelation hung heavy, a reminder that justice often came with a price, like the old saying, "What goes around comes around." But amid the tension, a light moment broke through when Elias, with a weak chuckle, mistook her protective runes for some fancy doodles to keep the ghosts away. It was a brief comic relief, his dry humor cutting through the dread, yet it only deepened the mystery. Why was he so flippant about something that could destroy them both? As the morning light grew stronger, Mira leaned closer, her heart pounding with unspoken questions, the air thick with anticipation. What other secrets was he hiding, and how would they drag her deeper into the abyss? Rain drummed against the roof like impatient fingers, urging Mira to confront the storm brewing inside her own heart, as Elias's presence forced her to question the walls she'd built around her solitude. She'd always believed that staying hidden was her only path to survival, but now, with a cursed stranger in her home, every shadow seemed to whisper doubts about her choices. Was breaking her pact an act of compassion or a reckless invitation to disaster? The uncertainty gnawed at her, making her wonder how far she'd go to protect this unexpected connection. As Elias regained more strength, he opened up about the night the curse took hold, his words painting a vivid picture of treacherous waves and betrayed loyalties, the salt air in the room amplifying the intensity. Emotionally, Mira felt a surge of empathy, her own memories of loss surfacing like wreckage from the deep. But then she realized something surprising. His curse wasn't just a punishment. It was a call for redemption, one that might mirror her unspoken desire to atone for her family's fate. "We're both prisoners of the sea, aren't we?" Elias said, his gaze piercing, tying their stories together in a web of shared suffering. The tension built, with pauses in their conversation filled by the rain's relentless patter, creating an electric silence that screamed of deeper connections. To ease the weight, Elias cracked a joke about how his naval days made him better at tying knots than making friends, a moment of humor that lightened the mood without diminishing the stakes, referencing the universal struggle of isolation. Yet it only heightened the drama, as Mira wondered if fate was using him to force her hand. The storm outside intensified, mirroring their inner turmoil. Would Mira's confessions lead to alliance or inevitable downfall? Mira woke to a faint glow in the darkness, the kind that hinted at magic slipping from her control, and she couldn't ignore the way Elias's curse seemed to respond to her presence like a shadow chasing light. Had her healing efforts awakened something dormant? Or was this the start of a bond that could either save or condemn them? The mystery pulled at her, giving her a sense of impending change as she stepped into the cool night air, the ocean's roar a constant reminder of the pact she'd shattered. In the dim light, Mira experimented with her salt magic, crystals forming and dissolving in her hands. But something unexpected occurred when Elias joined her, his curse manifesting as fleeting illusions of shipwrecks that mirrored her own tragic visions. Internally, she grappled with a mix of awe and terror, realizing that their connection was amplifying both their powers and their vulnerabilities. "This isn't just about me anymore," Elias admitted, his voice steady yet laden with emotion, underscoring the theme of intertwined destinies. After all, karma had a way of binding souls in unexpected ways. A touch of humor emerged when Elias, trying to mimic her magic, ended up with a handful of harmless salt clumps that he jokingly called witches' confetti, bringing a warm, human moment that balanced the intensity. But it only served to heighten the tension as Mira felt the weight of their growing link, the silence between them charged with unspoken questions. With shadows closing in, could their fragile alliance withstand the sea's jealous rage? Or would it crumble under the weight of revelations yet to come? A thick mist rolled in from the sea, cloaking the world in an eerie veil that made every sound sharper, every shadow more menacing, and Mira couldn't shake the feeling that the visions haunting her sleep were bleeding into reality. Elias's curse had become a bridge between their minds, sharing glimpses of drowned sailors and forgotten oaths, leaving her to wonder if this was a gift or a curse in disguise. The uncertainty of what horrors the mist might reveal hung heavily in the air. As they sat by the fire, Elias described a vision where the sea spirit that cursed him demanded a sacrifice, his words painting a chilling picture that resonated with Mira's own losses. Then something surprising happened. She saw herself in the vision, not as a bystander but as a key player, forcing her to confront the idea that her magic was part of the curse's design. "We're dancing with demons here," Elias said, his tone grave, amplifying the emotional stakes, tying into the universal concept of redemption through suffering. To break the heaviness, Elias quipped about how the mist made him feel like he was back on a foggy deck arguing with ghosts, a light-hearted nod to his naval past that provided brief comic relief. Yet it underscored the tension, with dramatic pauses in their conversation allowing the weight of their shared fate to sink in. As the visions grew clearer, would Mira embrace this connection or fight to sever it before it consumed them both? The call of the ocean grew insistent, a low rumble that vibrated through the ground and into Mira's chest, pulling her toward the cliffs despite the danger it represented. A siren song that questioned her resolve and made her doubt the safety of her hidden life. Elias, sensing the pull, warned her of the risks, but the mystery of why the sea was singling them out created a compelling draw, pulling them into a web of escalating threats. Out on the bluffs, the wind howled like a living thing, and suddenly, Mira's magic flared uncontrollably, revealing a hidden mark on Elias's skin that pulsed with the same rhythm as her own power. Emotionally, she felt exposed, her internal conflict laid bare, as he confessed that the curse was designed to draw in those with similar gifts, making her a target. "The sea doesn't forget, and it sure as hell doesn't forgive," Elias said, his words hitting like a thunderclap, connecting to themes of justice and inevitable consequences. A moment of levity came when Elias, trying to lighten the mood, joked that his curse made him the worst dinner guest ever, but it only highlighted the gravity of their situation, with pauses in the dialogue building suspense. As the sea's call grew stronger, would Mira's decision to stay or flee seal their fate in ways she couldn't imagine? Mira's trust in Elias was as fragile as the salt crystals she shaped with her magic, cracking under the weight of half-truths and lingering suspicions. Yet the pull of their shared experiences kept her rooted, wondering if vulnerability was the path to freedom or folly. The foundation of their budding alliance seemed to shift with each passing moment. Inside the cottage, Elias shared more of his story, describing the mutiny that led to his curse, but Mira noticed inconsistencies in his tale, hinting at secrets he wasn't ready to reveal. Internally, she wrestled with doubt, her empathy clashing with a need for honesty, leading to a tense exchange where Elias finally admitted, "I've lied to protect people before, but never to hurt them." The confession was charged with emotional depth, reinforcing the idea that redemption required facing one's demons. To balance the drama, Elias offered a wry comment about how his life had turned into a bad sea shanty with no happy ending, providing moderate comic relief that humanized him. The silence that followed was palpable, filled with unspoken accusations and budding understanding, building tension toward the unknown. With trust hanging by a thread, what hidden truths would surface to test their fragile bond? The tide rose higher than usual, an ominous sign that the sea was restless, and Mira felt the ground shift beneath her feet, both literally and figuratively, as Elias's curse began to affect the world around them in ways she couldn't ignore. Was this the start of something catastrophic, or a call to action that would define their survival? The sense of urgency grew with each wave that crashed against the shore. As they worked together to reinforce the cottage's barriers, something surprising unfolded. The curse responded to Mira's magic, creating protective waves that shielded them from the flooding waters, but at the cost of draining her strength. Emotionally, Elias was torn, his protective instincts clashing with the reality of his burden, leading to a heartfelt moment where he said, "You're the anchor I never knew I needed," deepening their connection and exploring themes of destiny and support. Elias lightened the mood with a joke about how the rising water made him feel like a fish out of water in reverse, adding a touch of humor to the chaos. Yet the dramatic pauses in their frantic efforts built tension, leaving questions about the consequences of their link. As the tides rose, would their combined efforts hold back the sea, or would it sweep them into an unforgiving current? Echoes of past heartbreaks haunted Mira like ghosts in the fog, triggered by an old artifact Elias had carried ashore, a rusted locket that held memories of his lost love, forcing her to confront her own unresolved grief. Why did the past keep intruding on their present, and what role did it play in their entangled fates? The weight of history seemed to press down on both of them. As Mira examined the locket, she discovered that the curse wasn't just about Elias's guilt. It was tied to a cycle of loss that included her family's history, suggesting a cosmic connection orchestrated by the sea. Internally, she felt a wave of sorrow, her voice breaking as she shared her story, creating a powerful moment where Elias responded with, "We're all paying for sins we didn't commit, but maybe together we can break the chain." The moment tied into ideas of karma and redemption, with a heavy silence that amplified the intimacy. To provide relief, Elias shared a light-hearted anecdote about a foolish escapade from his sailing days, calling it, "The time I almost became shark bait," which brought a brief smile amidst the tears. With echoes of the past growing louder, would uncovering these shared histories lead to healing or unleash a storm of regret? Mira's magic and Elias's curse were weaving together like threads in a tapestry she couldn't control, raising questions about whether this bond was a blessing or a trap that could ensnare them both in an eternal struggle. The unpredictable nature of their connection grew more apparent with each passing day. During a ritual to test their link, something unexpected occurred when their powers merged, creating a burst of light that revealed hidden dangers in the shadows, including spectral figures from Elias's past. Emotionally, Mira was exhilarated and terrified, her internal conflict peaking in a moment where she whispered, "We're changing each other, but at what cost?" The theme of interconnected destinies hung in the air, with pauses that let the magnitude sink in. Elias added a dash of humor by comparing their magical mishap to a fireworks show gone wrong at a kid's birthday, lightening the intensity without undermining the stakes. As they became more bound by magic, would this union empower them or invite destruction from the depths? Doubts crept in like the incoming tide, eroding Mira's confidence as she grappled with the desires stirring within her, desires that blurred the line between duty and something far more personal with Elias. Was she falling for him out of genuine feeling, or was the curse manipulating her emotions? The intimate exploration of conflict within her heart grew stronger. In a heated discussion, Elias confessed that his feelings for her were real, but the curse amplified them, making it hard to distinguish truth from enchantment. Internally, Mira felt a whirlwind of confusion, leading to a moment where she admitted, "I've spent so long running from love, but now it's crashing over me like a wave I can't fight." The moment connected to universal themes of vulnerability and redemption, with tense silences that heightened the drama. To balance the emotion, Elias made a self-deprecating joke about being cursed in love and literally cursed, providing a moderate laugh that humanized their struggle. As doubts and desires collided, would they surrender to the pull or risk everything to break free? In the quiet aftermath of their trials, Mira and Elias found a rare moment of stillness, but the unspoken bonds forming between them felt like threads pulling taut, ready to snap under the slightest pressure, bonds that made her question if silence could be as dangerous as the sea's roar. Was this growing closeness a sign of strength, or a vulnerability that the curse could exploit? The emotional dilemma heightened the anticipation for what lay beneath the surface. As they shared stories by the fire, Mira sensed a faint echo of her own magic in Elias's curse, suggesting that her lineage was intertwined with the sea spirit's vendetta in ways she never imagined. Internally, she felt a rush of confusion and connection, leading to a moment where Elias whispered, "Maybe we're not cursed alone. Maybe we're cursed together for a reason." the revelation tied into themes of fate and redemption, with pauses that let the weight of their shared path sink in, evoking the universal struggle of finding meaning in suffering. To lighten the intensity, Elias joked that their situation was like a bad rom-com where the ocean plays the jealous ex, adding a touch of humor that humanized their ordeal. Yet, it only underscored the tension, as Mira wondered how long they could keep their emotions in check. With unspoken bonds tightening, would their silence protect them or invite a revelation that could shatter everything? Elias's curse tightened its grip like an invisible chain, dragging him into fits of delirium where shadows whispered taunts, forcing Mira to face the harsh reality that her efforts to heal him might be fueling the very thing she feared. Could she fight a force that seemed to thrive on their connection? Or was this the curse's way of ensuring they were never truly free? The escalating threat built a sense of inevitable conflict. In a moment of crisis, Mira's magic backfired, amplifying the curse's illusions and conjuring visions of her own drowned family, blending their traumas in a horrifying display. Emotionally drained, Elias reached out saying, "We're in this together, come hell or high water," reinforcing their alliance amidst chaos, connecting to ideas of karma, where shared burdens lead to shared redemption. A brief comic relief came when Elias, amidst the haze, muttered that the curse made him feel like a puppet in a bad marionette show, his wit providing a momentary distraction. The dramatic pauses in the scene amplified the tension, leaving questions about control and consequence. As the curse's grasp strengthened, would Mira's determination be enough to loosen its hold, or would it drag them into the abyss? Amid the encroaching darkness, small moments of light pierced through like sunbeams on a stormy sea, offering Mira and Elias a glimpse of what life could be without the weight of curses and loss. But she knew these reprieves were fleeting, mere illusions in a world bent on testing them. Was this a sign of hope, or just the calm before an even greater storm? The contrast of joy and dread filled the air around them. Exploring a hidden cove, they shared laughter and stories. But then a seashell Mira found glowed with residual magic, revealing a message from the sea spirit that hinted at Elias's role in an ancient cycle. Internally, Mira felt a mix of elation and fear, leading to a moment where she declared, "We're not just surviving, we're fighting for a chance to rewrite our story." The moment evoked themes of destiny and human resilience, with silences that built emotional depth. Elias lightened the mood by teasing her about turning a simple beach walk into a treasure hunt, his humor adding warmth to the scene. Yet, it heightened the underlying tension, as the light moments couldn't fully mask the growing threats. With moments of light fading fast, what shadows would emerge to challenge their fragile hope? Shadows deepened around them, not just in the literal sense as night fell, but in the way Elias's curse cast doubts on every decision, making Mira question if their partnership was a lifeline or a noose tightening slowly. The psychological toll of their situation weighed heavily on both of them. As they prepared for another assault from the curse, Mira's magic was evolving, drawing energy from Elias in a symbiotic exchange that could either empower or destroy them. Emotionally charged, Elias confessed his fears, saying, "I've seen men break under less. Don't let me be the reason you do," delving into themes of sacrifice and redemption with tense pauses that amplified the stakes. To provide balance, Elias cracked a joke about how the curse made him the ultimate party crasher, injecting comic relief that humanized their struggle. The narrative built toward greater tension, leaving unanswered questions about their changing dynamic. As shadows deepened, would their bond illuminate a path forward or plunge them into irreversible darkness? A glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon, a faint light in the form of an old legend Elias recalled, one that spoke of breaking curses through unlikely alliances. But Mira couldn't ignore the voice in her head warning that hope was often a precursor to greater falls. Was this the turning point they'd been waiting for? Or a trap set by the sea? The emotional uncertainty built anticipation for what might come next. Researching the legend, they discovered a ritual that required Mira's salt magic and Elias's naval knowledge, but it came with a cost that threatened to expose their secrets to the world. Internally, Mira felt a surge of optimism mixed with dread, leading to a moment where she vowed, "If we're going to face this, we face it together, no matter the price." The declaration connected to universal themes of fate and courage, with silences that let the resolve hang in the air. Elias added levity by comparing their quest to hunting for buried treasure with a map drawn by a drunk pirate, his wit providing a brief escape from the seriousness. Yet, it only intensified the drama, as the glimmer of hope cast longer shadows. With a potential path to freedom in sight, what sacrifices would they have to make to seize it? Fractured revelations shattered the fragile peace they'd built, each new truth cracking the foundation of their trust like ice underfoot, forcing Mira to confront how little she knew about Elias's past and her own role in the curse's web. Who was he really, and what part of this nightmare had she unknowingly stepped into? The layer of mystery escalated the emotional stakes with each revelation. In an intense confrontation, Elias admitted that he'd sought out the sea spirit intentionally, driven by guilt over a long-ago mistake, a confession that mirrored Mira's hidden regrets and bound them in a cycle of atonement. Emotionally raw, he said, "We've both got blood on our hands. Maybe that's why the sea won't let go," exploring karma and redemption, with dramatic pauses that deepened the impact. To ease the tension, Elias offered a self-deprecating laugh, calling himself a walking bad luck charm, adding moderate comic relief that highlighted his humanity. The chapter built toward greater conflict, leaving questions about forgiveness and consequence. As fractured revelations piled up, would they find strength in their shared flaws or be torn apart by them? Mira stood at a crossroads, her choice weighing heavy like an anchor, as the sea's call grew louder, demanding she decide whether to deepen her bond with Elias or cut ties before it was too late, a decision that could define her future or seal her doom. What would she sacrifice for a chance at love in a world that seemed determined to punish her? The dilemma pulled at her heart with increasing urgency. Faced with the ritual's demands, Mira's decision could alter the curse's course, but it required confronting the sea spirit directly, a risk that could cost her everything. Internally conflicted, she felt a mix of fear and determination, leading to a moment where she declared, "I've run from my power for too long. It's time to face what I've become." The moment tied into themes of destiny and personal growth, with silences that built suspense. Elias tried to diffuse the gravity with a joke about how witches and curses were a match made in comedy hell, providing light relief that underscored the seriousness. With the witch's choice looming, would her gamble pay off or lead to a catastrophic end? A storm of emotions raged within Mira, mirroring the literal tempest brewing outside, as Elias's curse and her magic clashed in a chaotic dance that threatened to consume them both. Could they weather this internal hurricane, or would it expose weaknesses they couldn't afford? The vivid conflict heightened the sense of urgency between them. In the height of the storm, their combined efforts not only contained the curse but also unleashed a surge of power that revealed a hidden ally in the shadows, changing the dynamics of their fight. Emotionally charged, Elias gripped her hand, saying, "We're more than our curses, we're the storm that breaks them," emphasizing redemption and unity, with pauses that let the intensity resonate. To balance the drama, Elias quipped that their situation was like riding a roller coaster blindfolded, adding humor that humanized the chaos. As the storm of emotions peaked, what new threats would emerge from the calm? At the breaking point, where every word and action could tip the scales, Mira and Elias faced the raw edge of their limits, the curse pushing them to confront truths they'd buried deep. Was this the end of their journey or the catalyst for a transformation that could change everything? The critical juncture built emotional tension between them like never before. In a pivotal moment, the sea spirit's curse was revealed to be a test of their will, designed to forge a new path if they could overcome their fears together. Internally shattered, Mira broke down, admitting her deepest regrets, leading to a moment where Elias responded, "We don't have to be defined by our pasts. We can choose our redemption." The exchange connected to themes of karma and hope, with dramatic silences that amplified the vulnerability. Elias lightened the moment with a dry comment about how life had turned him into a pro at hitting rock bottom, offering comic relief that highlighted resilience. At the breaking point, would they rise together or fall into the void? United against the deep, Mira and Elias prepared for the final confrontation, their bond a shield against the sea's wrath, but doubts lingered about whether unity could triumph over ancient forces bent on destruction. What price would they pay for standing together in the face of oblivion? The climax of their alliance approached with each passing moment. As they invoked the ritual, their connection had weakened the curse's hold, but it awakened the sea spirit itself, forcing a direct challenge. Emotionally fortified, Elias declared, "We've come this far. Let's show the deep what we're made of," underscoring themes of destiny and courage. With tense pauses that built to a fever pitch, Elias added a touch of humor by joking that facing a sea spirit was better than another day of cursed small talk, providing balance to the high stakes. United against the deep, would their stand be victorious or lead to a tragic end? As the shadows of their ordeal began to fade, Mira felt a tentative sense of relief, but the lingering echoes of the curse made her question if true peace was ever within reach, or if it was just another illusion crafted by the sea's capricious nature. Elias, still marked by the ordeal, shared a quiet moment with her, yet the air held a charge of unfinished business as their journey wound down with unresolved tension. In a moment of reflection, the curse's hold was weakening not just through their rituals, but because of Mira's unwavering compassion, a force that the sea spirit hadn't anticipated. Emotionally, she grappled with the weight of her growth, leading to a moment where Elias said, "You've turned what was meant to break us into something that might just set us free," tying into themes of redemption and karma, with silences that allowed the profundity to resonate. To ease the intensity, Elias joked that after all this, he was ready for a vacation that doesn't involve water, providing a light-hearted break that humanized their exhaustion. Yet it only heightened the subtle drama, as Mira wondered about the cost of their victories. With fading shadows came the promise of light, but what remnants of the curse would linger to test their newfound strength? Mira stood on the edge of decision, a leap of faith beckoning her to trust not just Elias but the fragile hope they'd nurtured, even as doubts whispered that one wrong step could plunge them back into darkness. Was this the moment to embrace uncertainty, or had they tempted fate too many times? The pivotal dilemma built emotional stakes through universal themes of risk and belief. As they prepared for a final ritual, a hidden aspect of Mira's magic surfaced, one that could sever the curse but required her to confront the sea spirit alone, challenging everything she'd learned about their bond. Internally conflicted, Elias urged her on, saying, "Sometimes you gotta jump without a net. That's when you find out what you're really made of," with an American idiom that emphasized courage and destiny, underscored by dramatic pauses. Elias added a touch of humor by comparing their situation to leaping off a cliff for a blind date with fate, lightening the mood while highlighting the absurdity. The tension grew, leaving questions about trust and outcome. With a leap of faith taken, would Mira's courage lead to triumph or a fall into the unknown? From the ashes of their struggles and the salt of their tears, Mira and Elias emerged reborn, their connection forged in the fires of adversity. But she couldn't ignore the quiet voice asking if this rebirth was permanent or just a fleeting reprieve. The moment of transformation held lingering uncertainties that tugged at her newfound peace. In a tender exchange, their bond had altered Mira's magic, making it a source of healing rather than isolation, a change that symbolized redemption for both. Emotionally moved, Elias held her close, whispering, "We've been through hell, but look at us now, stronger for the scars," connecting to themes of karma and renewal, with soft silences that conveyed deep affection. To balance the emotion, Elias quipped that they were like a phoenix and a sailor who finally learned to swim, offering moderate comic relief that celebrated their journey. The narrative flowed with a sense of closure, yet a gentle curiosity remained. As they were reborn from ash and salt, what new beginnings awaited? And would the sea ever truly release its claim? On the horizon, hope glimmered like the first light of dawn, offering Mira and Elias a chance to step into a future unmarred by curses. But the memory of their trials lingered, a reminder that peace often came with its own set of shadows. Had they truly escaped the sea's grasp, or was this just the start of a different kind of journey? The bittersweet reflection tied up the narrative while leaving a final emotional pull. As they watched the waves recede, the curse was broken, but it had left a mark, a shared vision of possibilities that bound them beyond magic. Internally at peace, Mira leaned into Elias, saying, "We've fought for this, now it's ours to hold," emphasizing redemption and hope, with pauses that let the resolution settle. Elias lightened the farewell with a joke about trading cursed seas for cursed coffee, adding a warm human touch to their goodbye. With hope on the horizon, what paths would they choose? And how would their story echo in the lives they touched? As the story of Mira and Elias draws to a close, It's impossible not to pause and consider the waves of emotion we've navigated together, the isolation that binds us, the curses we carry from our pasts, and the unexpected bonds that can lead to redemption. Have you ever felt the pull of something greater, like Mira, where a single act of kindness ripples into a life-changing force? Or like Elias, wrestled with the weight of mistakes, wondering if forgiveness is within reach? These aren't just tales of fantasy. They're mirrors to our own lives, reminding us that even in the stormiest seas, there's room for growth and connection. Now think about your own story. What curse are you ready to break? What leap of faith calls to you? Whether it's mending a relationship, pursuing a dream, or simply embracing vulnerability, let this narrative inspire you to take that first step. Don't just read about change, be part of it. Share your thoughts in the comments, tell us how this story resonated with you, or start your own journey by exploring more tales like this one. Your story matters, and it's waiting to be told.